Welcome back to the summary of Chapter 2 Prisoner of Zenda. The last part in Chapter 1 we talked about the hero looked exactly like the king. When they reached the Ruritanian border, the guards stared at Rodolph and his passport for some time before letting him into the country. They were very surprised to see Rodolph as he looked exactly like the king. 2. Johann's amazement on seeing Rodolph assemble. 3. Colonel Sapt and Fred's amazement on seeing Rodolph. So, Rodolph Rossandel and the King of Ruritania, Rodolph Elfberg. Rodolph Elfberg liked to live well and preferred eating to action. So he said we can still eat well and good food is more important than sleep. It wouldn't be a good idea for Rossandel to visit Strelso at that time, as people might mistake him for the king and that would cause a lot of problems. Now we will talk about the reasons for poisoning the king. Poisonous cakes. Sapt, Fritz and Rodolph thought that the king was poisoned by Duke Michael, so that he couldn't be crowned. If Rodolph wasn't crowned on the specified day, Duke Michael would take the crown, pretending to be the king, who is Rossandel. People would realize that he wasn't the king, he was English and wasn't a Ruritanian. But the most important two things were he looked exactly like the king. The second one, his German was perfect. Now let's talk about Colonel Sapt's plan. Colonel Sapt's plan was to go to the palace. Fritz would stay and guard the king's bedroom in the palace. Then Sapt and Rodolph would go back to the hunting lodge on their horses to bring the king. The king would return to the palace with Sapt and Rodolph would ride to the border and leave Ruritania before it was light. Finally, let's pay attention on these questions and study them carefully. Question number 1. Who did the poor people of Strelso support, the king or Duke Michael, and why? The answer is, they supported Duke Michael. They didn't like the king as they didn't want things to stay the same. Duke Michael told them he wanted things to be different and gave them hope for a better future. Question 2. What kind of life did poor people live in Strelso? They lived a hard life. People were crowded into tiny things, which were old and hot in summer, freezing cold in winter, and finally the streets were narrow. Question 3. What kind of life did rich people live in the capital of Strelso? They lived a comfortable life in big houses built in wide, modern streets. Question 4. Who did the rich of Strelso support? The king or Duke Michael, and why? They supported the king as they had always lived well under the king's father, and they knew that nothing would change. Now answer these questions on your own. After you finish, check your answer in the description of the video. Question number 1. Duke Michael was so popular among the poor people in Strelso. Give reasons. 2. Class distinction was evident in Strelso. Discuss. 3. Colonel Sapt asked Rodolph Rossandel to pretend to be the king. What would happen if Sapt's plan failed? 4. Did Colonel Sapt do the right thing when he locked Johann's mother with the king in the cellar? Why? Why not? 5. Why did Sapt, Fritz, and Rodolph Rossandel leave for the capital an hour earlier? Question 6. Look at this quote and answer the following questions. Me? That's impossible. people would realize that I'm not the king. Question A. Who said this to whom? B. What was the speaker asked to do? C. Give two reasons why the speaker thought it was impossible for him to do that. Finally, thank you so much for watching the video, and if you have any question you can ask me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and share to see my upcoming videos. See you.